Hi, I'm Kevin. I started SEO like 5 years ago in an agency, moved on then to another agency with bigger clients because I also like working with big clients, and then started as a consultant, then moved over to optimization because optimization was something that really took part of my study adventures, more or less. And then, yeah, with that, I became now self-employed and have my own freelance stuff now. And most of the time, I now consult clients who want to become more visible in all the different AI systems. And that's something, yeah, the topic today is something I always talk with clients because they still have the SEO glasses on that they want more or less to use, like the people also ask questions to track and all the kind of different stuff, just longer queries. And today's topic is about why that doesn't work and what better alternatives are there to really craft your own artificial prompts to get the result that you actually want to track. And first of all, you can't track AI like you did with Google rankings. And the reason for that is that even if you would use the same prompt as your clients use, you wouldn't get the same result. Reason for that is that whatever tracking tool you're using, those tracking tools use unpersonalized, history-free accounts, more or less, because they use a scraper in incognito mode. And if they use scraper, some tools also use the API, but it's the same thing basically. But if you could choose between those, always choose the scraper. And yeah, with that, even if you would use the same exact prompt as your clients would do, you wouldn't get the same result, as I said, because those systems personalize really hard based on the history of the users, based on the preferences, the memory, and all that kind of different stuff. And this context should be in your prompts to really get the results or the answers that your clients get. And you can also see it in your own user account. If you ask the system of your choice what's the best solution for that, and it already knows your company, it tells you that your company is obviously the best. But if you would ask the same question in incognito mode, it will get a different answer.
It will say your company is shit.
It won't even mention probably your company if it is visible. And another thing that you need to keep in mind is that AI synthesizes. So a lot of SEOs out there will tell you that SEO is the same as AEO, Geo, whatever you want to call it, because in the background it still uses some search engine. But with Google you have the temporal links and more or less the same results for every query. There is some personalization happening, but not in the same way with AI. So the positions keep changing, but you get the view if you just use the unpersonalized keyword. So it's more or less good trackable. With AI systems, yes, you have that. You have the same results from the search engine, whether it's Google Search, it's Bing, ChatGPT's or OpenAI's own index. You get the results that you would get in Google Search, but then comes the LLM layer on top, and it synthesizes what it gets from those search engines. So it mixes up and uses its own internal knowledge to generate an answer that's completely different from what you would get in Google, and it's different for every user because of that context. So that's the reason why context, more or less everything here. So that's why you need to simulate that context. And the context I mean with that is personas, intent, situational needs, to better come close to the answer that your clients get. So you have to do less guesswork and get the most likely insights to your clients than what you would get if you just would use people also ask questions, longer queries, whatever. So you have to somehow do a mindset shift from keywords to think of prompts as probes. So to check the water more or less, or test the water. With the SEO, you would basically ask the question, what rank do we have for the keyword XY? Because with the keyword, with the keyword set, you could check the ranking positions, you could check the traffic you get from those keywords, and hopefully you would track the revenue that you get from the keyword set. So you could go a clear path from the keyword to revenue. And that's not the same for AEO, because you don't have a clear prompt set, you don't know what traffic comes from LLMs, because even with whatever analytics tool you use, the traffic that's in there is most of the time not the real traffic that's coming through LLM, because most users see your brand, hopefully in the AI response, and then start to either come via direct traffic or via a navigational search. So your reporting tool of choice would then tell you that those clients came through direct or navigational, but it won't tell you that those clients started their journey in LLMs. That's why most companies start to ask users where they're coming from, and adding the option into, are you coming from ChatGPT, Perplexity, whatever, because more and more clients come through that, and most analytics tools don't report that reliable. So how do you use a prompt as a prompt? So it's now a monitoring prompt, because, as I just said, the prompt isn't really the prompt that users use. So there's the user prompt and there's the monitoring prompt, and the monitoring prompt isn't a real prompt. It's a representative question that shows you, is your brand in the response. And so a prompt or a monitoring prompt shouldn't be a keyword with small words. It shouldn't be people also ask questions. It's not something with prompt volume, because even if the prompt would be used a lot of times, it doesn't tell you anything about the traffic that you would get from it. So a prompt shouldn't be something that's identical to your user input. And that's why context matters, because AI just doesn't rank differently. It's generating a completely different answer based on context, history, and the user preferences. And another thing here is that's also need to be on your mind, is that there are two different layers of AI knowledge. On the one side, there is the internalized knowledge, and with the internalized knowledge, the AI system decides whether it uses the retrieved knowledge or decides to either just come up with a search. So you need to form the prompt to make the model use search, more or less, because most AI systems won't use search every time, and if it just comes to the internalized knowledge, it's just the training data. And the training data is fixed until the training date that you would get most of the model cards, and you need to be in there to get recognized. So if your brand isn't visible in the internalized knowledge, it gets hard to get generated within the retrieved knowledge. So even if your brand appears in the retrieved knowledge, it probably won't make it to the answer, because the model then decides to use the brands that it already knows. So retrieved knowledge is then the data that's coming through search, and that's actually the part that you really can influence. And yeah, the biggest problem you've probably heard of it now is that personalization hits even harder. There's the user profile in tools like ChatGPT. There are summaries from previous chats that influence your new chat, and you can also have connected sources like Dropbox and MCPs, the ChatGPT apps, all that kind of different stuff influences what the answer will look like. So this also leads now again to a completely different answer for your clients if they use a generic prompt. So your monitoring is only as good as your context. And to build that context, there are two approaches. You can either go with intent first, or you can go with ICP first. Intent first means that you have the different intents for your website that users want to fulfill on your website, and you need a lot of bigger variance per intent compared to the ICP first approach, because you need to track more or less every direction that the intents can go. So with that, you can measure the coverage of your brand and also the drift over time. With the ICP, you would simulate the personalization. You need fewer prompts. You directly embed the context, and it's closer to the real user experience. And to me, I prefer the ICP first approach, but I get the idea of the intent first, and we will look into those approaches now. After we talked about what to track, because for tracking you can track the visibility. So is your brand appearing in the answer? How is it appearing? Is it in a good way? Is it in a bad way? In what context? Because most of the responses, if you would use the intent first approach, it normally use a structured response. So it will tell you like something like, for big companies it's that, for smaller companies it's that, for medium-sized companies it's that, and then you have to look into the response and check in which segment you are in. And you can also track the citations, obviously. So is there a link in the response? If there's no link, it probably hasn't used the search part. Which pages get cited, and with most AI visibility tools, you can now check if your brand is on the cited pages. So even if your page doesn't get cited directly, you can then check if your brand's mentioned on the cited URL. For example, if there is some article from news publisher about the best whatever, and you are part of that list, then you will then get not cited directly, but indirectly via the news publisher. And what you can also track is the drift over time. Is how is your coverage changing? How are the competitors changing? Are they getting more visible? And how is your sentiment changing? The idea from the intent first is that I start with defining the intent, then add context variants, and then build my prompt set. That's basically the 3 steps. To make it more clear, I brought an example. An example intent would be to compare CRM solutions for mid-market. Then I would add for everything here the different personas, phrasing, situational needs, and temporal context. Like currently would be a temporal context, but I will get to that in a minute. And as I said, you need more prompts for intent first, prompt tracking more or less, because you need 5 to 10 prompts approximately per intent and topic, which can get a lot if you have a bigger site. For the ICP, what you normally would do is to define the ICPs. If you haven't done already, then map the context to the ICPs and then embed the prompts. Also here with an example, let's say you have the ICP of a B2B SaaS marketing lead, which is leading a company or a team of 15 to 50 employees, and the company itself is in the scaling phase. Then here are already some context elements in the ICP, but you would give that context to the prompt. That leads to the fact that you lead less prompts per ICP and less per topic in general. Coming to the techniques. So we have 3 for the intent first approach and 3 for the ICP first. And the marked yellow one's my personal favorite. So yeah, we'll get to that. But let's start with the intent clustering. With intent clustering, you mix basically multiple intents at once. Here are the intents to compare the solutions, because the example here is what are the difference between HubSpot, Salesforce, and Pipedrive for a growing B2B company with 50 employees. Again, it's more or less the same situation as in the examples before. And what I mix here is the CRM comparison. Also, I want a tool that's fitting to my company size, and also it's in the B2B context. Why I'm doing that? Because with AI, you have the ability to answer multiple questions and multiple concerns at once, and real users would do that. They wouldn't just say what are CRM solutions, but add in multiple intents and concerns at once, because they can do it. And it's just not one step, but multiple steps they can do in just one prompt. So most clients will do that. Another thing here is to do it goal-oriented. So an example would be, I want to automate my email marketing without coding skills. What tools should I consider? The goal here is automation, and I also add in a constraint because it should be no code. Why I'm doing that is users ask what they want to achieve and not what category of tool they need, but yeah, they just confront the AI system with the goal. The temporal context is one of the most important ones, and if you look at your AI visibility tool of choice, you will see that not every response is really grounded, and you can trigger grounding with the temporal context. So if you just add in currently, right now, whatever, you can force most systems to use web search more reliable than without those terms, because most systems have in their system prompt that if they get asked for current information, they should use web search, and that's why you probably should use some temporary context. If you see that most of the responses in your AI visibility tool aren't grounded because they don't have any links in them. Yeah, but also something, especially as we have just part of a new year, you want to avoid specific years, because if your prompt set would say 2025, then you would need to update it, and then you don't have the history of all your prompts from last year. That's why you want to avoid specific years. Now, the first ICP approach would be to have a persona simulation. Something like we have 4 children and are planning our first family vacation, what should be considered. Here, the persona isn't injected just like I'm a parent, but more what's the real solution, because I'm a parent doesn't tell you anything and makes the AI just assume what it means to be a parent, more or less, and what be the best solution for a parent. But a parent could be of one child and a big child, so if you just add in what the real solution is, then you get closer to a good answer that the AI systems would get from the context of the users. Then the conversation state, if you assume that most users don't use the systems for the first time, but have a history of using it, they probably have in a previous chat already compared your solution against others, and then want to know from the system why what alternatives are there and why they should be considered. And this is a good way to understand how you are standing there compared to competitors, and what makes you stand out, or what are your deficits that you should consider, or that you should do something about. And then the multi-target is a prompt that's not only targeting one page or one intent, but is facing more pages at once and more intents at once, because you give the context, you give the knowledge, the value, and the action, and could also add something like the temporal approach to make the AI system really search. And yeah, that's the idea behind the multi-target prompt. Multi-target prompt would be this one. So, as a head of marketing at a SaaS company, as a SaaS startup with 15 employees, it would be the context. I want to understand which CRM helps us scale efficiently. That's context. Our budget is max 15 euros per month, and we need integrations with our existing tools. That's the value and the constraints. And the last one is the action. So it's asking the tool for action, which 3 solutions should be evaluated first. And with that, it's the comparison part. So if, let's say, you have already a blog about the 3 best CRM solutions, then that could be cited in the answer, but also your pricing page maybe, or your feature page, whatever it is. This prompt is designed to target multiple URLs of yours at once, to check if all of the pages are relevant for that answer to get cited. And maybe one of you want to also create an example prompt for this approach.
Paul, have you here? You're quitting already?
I'm not at my optimum today. For the CM example,
Whatever example comes to your
I mean,
but just
can say that as a CEO of an online marketing agency, I'm looking for a CM that integrates well with AI tools. And I don't know if I would even look for prices, and give me a comprehensive overview table to compare, something like that, maybe.
Yeah, as you just said, that the value is missing, or some features, constraints that you look out for. I mean, you just said AI, but AI could be anything, basically. But yeah, that's basically the idea of a prompt that using the CKVA framework. And then with all the techniques in mind, you're starting building your monitoring system. You define your intents and the ICPs and apply the topics, the techniques of the topic, so that you get 5 to 10 variants per intent and for 1 to 5 per persona. Mix that however you like, because they just aim for different goals, and whatever your goal is, these techniques help you with. Most of the time, you should run your prompts daily to track visibility, most reliable, and also the drift. So if you would just track prompts weekly, monthly, or just when it comes to your mind, most of the time you don't have a reliable visibility tracking or citation tracking, because the answers change like every time you run those prompts. And to get a clear picture of what is constant and what is changing, you should track it daily. Now, putting it together, the monitoring methods are more like, as I just said, you could do the spot checks in the systems. You could just test your prompts, but if you do, please use the either incognito mode, because with most tools of them, you could you have the option to either to not log in or to use. Most of them have a ghost in the right upper corner that you can just click on this ghost, and then you are in incognito mode, so that your memory, your context, whatever is in your account, that this doesn't influence the answer, so that the AI system doesn't tell you, yeah, your solution is the best, but gives you a neutral answer. And you could do API-based monitoring, but it's, for my own experience, it's not recommended because it's really hard. And as I said earlier, scraping is better. There are APIs that offer the data from the scraping, but even with that, you need to have the brand extraction, and branding extraction is really a pain. I can tell you that. And you need a setup, and you need to maintain the tools. So I would rather use dedicated tools like PKI, like BuzzView, RankScale, Sonic Profile. They all work great, and RankScale is probably one of the cheapest, but I don't know for the price model for BuzzView. Maybe you want to say something about that.
I don't have the rank scale pricing at mind right now. But I think your presentation goes in the direction of what we had in mind when building BuzzView, because most of these tools are strictly focusing at monitoring, or have a strong focus at monitoring. This is also like a question I would ask later on, because on the slide before you said a daily change monitoring, and with BuzzView you have you have the option to analyze as many prompts as you want. You can track them daily, you can track them weekly, monthly, or not track them at all. I think with your approach, which is really interesting, I think we would just end up with a lot of prompts. Like we will take your CM example. I did the calculation in my head right now. We'll probably end up with 500,000 prompts that make sense. We are more flexible. I don't know like how it's per request. But many of these tools you cannot even say how often you want to track. There's like a default daily tracking in there, for example. I strongly believe that for many of these things, monitoring them on a daily basis is not so much the key, because we strongly focus on the action that you take, and for me it's obviously understanding how answer systems, what answer systems think of your brand, what's working, which content is cited, and then obviously having a broad enough sample that you can take action. If you like monitor 10 prompts, you might completely get misleading information. So in your example in BuzzView, I would set it up as single projects. I would say, okay, like these are maybe my different personas or different depending. I would need to think about if I would do it intent based and then with different personas for the same intent, or the other way around. And then I would probably monitor just to get an understanding if I'm improving or not improving. I would monitor a smaller set of prompts, and I think this is the biggest advantage of BuzzView, is this flexibility that you can that you're not limited to 100 prompts and track them daily, or like you could do 10,000 prompts depending the plan.
Yeah.
So we have a big client, Deutsche Bahn in BuzzView, and we started. They just dropped me, I guess it was something around 5,000 prompts, and asked me to put this into tracking in one single project. And I was like, okay, but what do you expect? What you're gonna get? So even if the tool says, okay, your visibility in this 5,000 prompts is 10% or 50% or 60%. So what is the action you're taking out of this? And then we decided to split those 5,000 prompts into clusters and say, okay, this cluster is more for the ticket, the pricing, the product itself. This is for informational, like, is my train on time, blah, blah, blah. This is for issues. This is the FAQs on your own page, and so on and so on. And then they were able to look into these topics and then decide, okay, which is more important than the other part, because they need to focus, and then they need to put their resources on that. And then they decide, okay, all the questions around pricing, ticketing, bonus, and Deutsche Bahn card, it's highly important, so we focus on this one. All the topics around timings, if the Deutsche Bahn arrives on time or not, are not that important, because they can't handle that as an SEO, whatever. You're not able to get the train on time, even if you put good content in it. So all you can work is maybe the sentiment. Possibly thinking or writing about Deutsche Bahn could change.
It would be interesting how that changed in the last
But splitting all those 5,000 prompts into clusters, making several projects out of that, and then deciding, okay, we focus on, I don't know, night train topic, like, or going abroad with Deutsche Bahn, or focusing on the journeys between Berlin and, I don't know, Hamburg, Berlin, Munich, big cities, because we get the most traffic out of that, or earn good money there, instead of focusing on other topics. So this is how it's done in BuzzView with big clients. Because you could end up with 5,000, maybe also with 10,000 of prompts, depending on how big you are. And if you then start tracking this daily, then you need someone to take action on that because you get a lot of data, useful, maybe also valuable data, but then there needs to be a huge team working on those data. Okay, what we're going to do right now. So, okay, visibility is 10%. What is the action? Content optimization. Do we start doing citations? Do we start link building, buying, whatever? What's the next step? So, and in BuzzView, we're focusing on both, but a little bit more on the action part. But quite interesting how you approach this. I have the feeling we need to test this.
This is very, very interesting.
Yeah, we need to test it.
We get ideas going. That's is that are you still having some slides or this?
I still have some slides. I mean, we still have time.
Yeah,
yeah. I know from PGI, because I'm closely working with them, is that most clients don't track a lot of prompts. So I have a client with 1,000 prompts, and they tell me that most clients don't have 1,000 prompts in there. And also the prompt that I just showed in the last technique is a prompt that's longer than, I would say, 99% of the prompts. And yeah, the platform isn't really able to handle that well, because in some places you see that the UI can't handle that well. They even had the limitation that they just took, I think, around 200 characters, but they
200 characters for a prompt.
For prompt.
It's not that much.
Yeah, they removed that. It's now 1,000 characters.
Yeah.
But they still have that in the documentation, and when you add prompts, it will say, hey, there's a prompt with over 200 characters. So
it cut it off before, and then it doesn't work, or what?
I don't.
They still send information. Oh, okay. Interesting.
I have tons of questions. So let's keep them to the end.
The outcome of that is, when you have that monitoring set up, you will get accurate tracking, or the most reliable tracking that you can have, because you obviously can't have 100% accurate tracking, but the more you think about what context, what intents are related to your clients, then you will get as close as it gets to the answer that they get in the systems, and that leads to give you better information to act on, because you know what they might see, and it's the most realistic data that you can get. So again, if you would use the exact same prompts that your clients use, you won't get the same answer. Yeah, I have a quick lookout, more or less, in SPF time. I did create a video, but had to blend it out because it wasn't loading here, so you just get the prompt. And the idea here is, how do you get the context of URL if you want to? And the idea here is to use AI Studio. AI Studio is from Google, and in AI Studio you can turn the URL context on, and if you decide to put that on, if you enter your URL, like down here, you get the context of the URL, and it's free for everyone. You just need the Google account, and then you can enter that prompt and get the context of the URL. You can also you can probably share the slides, and then you can click on the prompt link here and then get the prompt, so you don't have to type it in. Yeah, I did that for BuzzView.
Oh, okay.
And
interesting.
We'll not show anything because it's not well renderable at the moment, probably.
It says that BuzzView is about videos. It's more about demos and videos and AI video powered testimonials.
Yeah.
So it couldn't just grasp the idea of what BuzzView is.
Yeah. But did you, like a question, did you see, you probably don't see what's happening in the URL crawl at that stage.
No.
So probably didn't get that properly. And then it started to give you some, I mean, that's in this case, something really risky if you don't understand the background, because you might understand it's understanding the website wrong. Well, the issue is that it's just not fetching the website and then making something up because it, you ask it probably to give it some kind of structured information. That would be my guess in this case.
I used the prompt used before, yeah, but I mean, with the URL context, the URL context is based on the context that Google already has about the website, and if this tells you if it's wrong, then there's something that Google understands wrong about your website.
AI-powered video testimonials and reviews.
Also good idea.
Came up with a new business idea.
We can probably also add like a guardrail for it to say that it could not fetch the website, not fetch the website, and not make up information.
I mean, I normally use it with the crawler that I know for sure can fetch the website, but this is a
you probably run that on a more scaled basis than in AI Studio.
Exactly. And with a even more in-depth prompt.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and the key takeaway from today should be that even with the same prompts, you won't get the same results. And that AI personalizes for every user, and you should simulate the context technically. And in the slides, we have these six techniques with 2 different approaches and ongoing. And the goal is to track real AI visibility. That's it.
Thank you, Kevin. You guys have questions? I know Raul got a ton of questions. You already mentioned that. So give us 5 minutes to... Anyone else with questions or anyone? Yeah.
Yeah, one thing. Is there any like positive feedback that actually, here it's just monitoring, what AI does, but there is a positive feedback that one company actually influenced that kind of result?
I use that with a few clients, and you can really act on it, because if you just ask for what's the best product, for example, you most of the time don't know which product URLs are in there, and if you would then use that really long prompt about comparing the different products and what are the best products, you then get a better idea about these citations. So then the products get really cited or not, and also if you're not in a CRM solution base where it's really narrow what the best solution is probably, but if you take it to consumer products, asking like something like what I have a family of 4 with 2 small children and I'm looking for the best air fryer. What are the top 3 products? The products are changing for every system, and that's quite interesting to see if you know that Perplexity has other top 3 products than ChatGPT does, and that those systems that you also need probably to have that systems in your system. If you're a marketplace, if you're just the brand, then you obviously have a different point of view and a goal. But these are really helpful to understand what are the best products? Am I in every system or just for Gemini, ChatGPT? And they quite work well. Yeah.
No, because I think, if for a product like Alsport or Sandwich, they are really big brand and it's, I don't know what is the range time, you show a refresh and he actually get, it's good for you. So this I'm just wondering because I listen a lot about the monitoring, but yeah, probably nobody knows actually when, it's, actually you can influence and then probably then people will have to pay like Google and then it will be another
It's not about paying. So if you, for example, you were talking about you don't really understand when the data is gathered in the tool. Or-
No, in the sense like it's scraping the data and stuff, but then it comes. If I do the question, if he does the question,
Yeah.
he'll get the result. Then I do the question, but he comes back to his zero to his own knowledge.
Yeah.
I mean, from the conversation I had with AI, doesn't get nothing. So yeah, maybe in the conversation I will get maybe the products because you see my history,
Yeah.
but it's just for me. Then it comes back for zero. So I don't know if it's for a company. It's how much resources to invest, to just be on AI, but you don't know how the.
So it makes sense to often it makes sense to be in the AI answers, but when it comes to tracking, you need to understand how your tracking tool is tracking, and what. So tracking is one part, but the other part is what you're going to do with the data. So it's the same with Google search. We know that the search for each of us is different. The results are different because of our history. If I'm logged in my Chrome or my Gmail, I get a different result page than Raoul gets or all the others. It's almost the same like in AI. So it's not 100%, but it's the same behavior. So there's history, there's also history. And the tools out there managed to deliver the best way they can. So there is no maybe 100% transparency and 100% accuracy in there, but that's maybe not the important thing. If you appear in 60, 70 or 80% of the audience out there as a good brand, and if you appear in the AI results, then it's okay. But if it's not happening for the rest of the 20%, it's maybe also fine for you. But you need to take the actions out of the monitoring tool. So if the monitoring tool says, okay, I did a monitoring with no history, and these are the results, then you can start doing the action and say, okay, I try to understand the answer. What are the parts of the answer? What kind of competitors are there? What is the sentiment? Is there a linking to my page or not? And then you could start working on that and then make sure that in most of the cases, maybe not in all, you appear in these results instead of trying to force to, is the data 100% accurate? What is the history? Blah blah. I don't think that this matter much. Just it didn't matter for the last 15 years for Google search results because they are also like with history and they're customized. Not all of us get the same results. If someone's searching in Germany, it gets different results than someone searching in France. Even if we're the same, if we're located in Germany, but one is in the south of Germany, the other one is in the north, different time periods, even this have also an influence on the search results. This is almost the same maybe for the AI topics.
What's your stance on search volume? Because prompt volume, because like you go in with a how you say that? Let me see the word. With a lot of ideas, and you make up your prompts, but it's not from a business perspective. In the end, you don't really know how often are people for searching for something like that. we ignore that completely, or try to approach that before, let's say, with people also asked or something like that?
I mean, the prompt volume that you would get in tools like Profound, which is prominent in it's promoting that really hard. I don't believe in the way they are doing that, because in the end it doesn't tell you everything. It's so much extrapolated that the data is, if there's just one skew in the data, then there's a huge bias. So I wouldn't rely on, but I get the idea that companies want to know how much those prompts are used, but in the end, it doesn't really matter how much prompts are used, because if I know that there is interest for the topic, then I just want to know if I'm relevant for the topic and for the personas, and if I'm sure about the persona and the topic, then it doesn't matter how much the exact prompt is used.
Because you assume that you then appear in the answers even if the prompt is different, because you're matching the topic and the persona, and you will still appear in even if the prompt is changing.
Exactly.
So you don't look at the exact prompt search volumes. So you're more saying like, okay, if you appear for these kind of answers or prompts in target group, then you will appear for others with the same issues also.
Yeah.
But this is different to tell the clients, because clients are used to or trained to over the last 20 years to look at search volume when it comes to taking a decision where put the investment or the budget on, because they say, okay, we're focusing on this 10, I don't know, keywords prompts because they drive 80% of the traffic because of their search volume. They focus on this. But if you came up with an idea like that, saying, hey, you just you need to make sure that you appear and that you are there for your target group, then it's difficult, because they say, okay, this is the budget, I put it here, but where do I put it exactly and how much I'm getting out of it? This is a difficult part.
Yeah, that's why I normally start with the URL. So the URLs that get me the most revenue, and I want to make sure that those URLs that give me the most revenue, that I'm relevant for the topics, the ISPs that they mention, that I'm visible for them in the AI systems. So with the prompt that I just showed, I would then use that and build a system around that takes in the URLs and then generates the personas, the topics, and then generates the prompts.
Yeah, I'm on your side. This topic it's really complex, because as you mentioned before, there are results without any URLs. Or the answer could be, hey, Buzzmatic is a good agency, but there is no link to Buzzmatic. Maybe there's an article out there in the web doing a citation or talking about Buzzmatic, a recommendation, whatever. So you are there as a brand, you get the citation, but you don't have the link. So the user maybe ends up in the end still on your web page, but you have the example. But maybe the user is clicking this recommendation on another page, on a blog page, whatever, somewhere else, and then reading the article about Buzzmatic, and then visiting Buzzmatic in the next step instead of going immediately to it.
Yeah, and the tracking tool will tell you, yeah, they can from the other page.
So this is not just about links. So it's really complex. It's getting complexer than it was before with Google search.
Yeah.
But this is what we have. We're talking a lot to clients about these topics, and they're asking questions. Okay, what is the citation? Why there is a link? Why there is a link without the citation? Why is there a citation without the link? Why it's saying there is a good sentiment, but there is no link in the results? So right now they're not understanding how it works. So this is my feeling.
I mean, what I think also from this discussion is showing how new and unexplored this field is. So we have significant tracking gaps from the whole topic of what are people actually searching. We're trying to come up with stuff which we believe people might be might be searching. We're ignoring a lot of things, like for example the whole topic of follow-up. Like you try to add a lot of these things in context, but like you just made me up here how to how would I prompt this? I would say like maybe with the Go based stuff first. Then I know okay, I need a CRM tool. Then I might give it some other context, and then I might do a detail. Then I might give him, hey, these are the things that are important to me. Please prepare an overview, or please do deep research, researching all of these things. So this is stuff we cannot do with any monitoring tools, because there's always multiple steps. Then we have all of these issues that, like you showed between, hey, you can use the API to monitor something, or you can scrape the web interface. Both are not perfect, because scraping the web interface gives you in an non-logged-in state stuff that you explained, but it also uses not the most current models in most cases. It uses the cheaper models. Then the API doesn't give you the same response as you would get in the web interface. So this, in my opinion, it makes sense to analyze. It also makes sense to monitor, but we need to acknowledge that we have like so many blind spots, and that it's just leading to a more holistic approach of optimizing, instead of like, hey, this landing page for this keyword is like really trying to say, hey, what is AI saying about my brand in general? What do I want to improve? What I want AI to know about my brand? Where are competitors showing up? Where I'm not showing up? And then taking holistic action on that. I think that's the only effective way to work on that right now.
For now, yes.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah. Another thing is that logged out users, or the logged out version, doesn't search as much as the logged in version.
Yeah.
So you have to definitely, and as you just said, the scrapers are using the logged out version, but most of your clients will use the logged in version. So you have to force that web search, more or less. But there are some approaches, like tools are using the forced web search that ChatGPT, for example, is offering.
Yeah.
But then it's more likely to use the search, but
In the normal result, it would not trigger the search at all. I mean, it's
so adding something like currently definitely, or from my experience, handles it better instead of toggling that web search on, and not forcing the web search. Because also with the API, you then force the web search, because if you give the LLM the web search tool, it uses it more often. It's not the real user experience that users would get.
So what we understand is it's not really perfect, because there are a lot of blind spots. So it's more about focusing on what do we do with the data we have right now, and measuring this. Even this could make sense. So even if you measure with the blind spot and you have an increase or decrease, then you have a feeling about if it's working or not what you're doing on your website. But if you try to change it each time, then you can compare the dates in between.
Yeah.
So try to focus more on the actions. Try to really hardly understand what your target group is, how you get the right prompts, because no matter what kind of tool you use, you start with the prompts, and then you need to think about the prompts, and this is the most difficult part. But once you have the prompts and then saying, okay, start tracking, this is the easy part. But getting the prompt is maybe the difficult part, and where you need to invest most of the time.
Even if you have the prompts and you see that the results are what you're expecting, then you need to change the prompts.
Yeah.
But then you lose all the data they have.
Then you use the history of data. Any other ideas? Anything else? Any questions?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, please go ahead.
And I had a demo with the RankScale founder, and I don't remember why he said that. So in my case, I work with an agency, and they say, okay, my client wants to know what they're doing on LLMs. So it's not my clients often, and I'm just starting off, so that's why I'm quite a newbie. But that guy from Rankscape mentioned I should not track hourly for some reason.
Yeah.
But then I want to see, like immediately something. So why is it wrong to do like, I don't know, 10 hours tracking so that I have some data? Or what's the issue with that?
And most of the time you want to track always at the same time to have less variance, more or less, in the prompt timing, because at different times you might get different answers, and that's why you want as less blind spots as it could be.
So even tracking hourly, what does it give it to you? What kind of
Well,
information?
I mean, I would try to even out, like differences if I only do like once and then say, okay, so, I have this one, run this 10 prompts once, your visibility is this and that. I would feel like I didn't cover a lot, right? But still I can't take, a whole week of tracking if they want to just know how they're doing.
But the question is, why do we track it? Why do we track? Why do we measure KPIs? What's the idea behind that? Because we need to understand. We want to understand what's the situation, and then we need to take action. We need to decide, okay, what do we do right now with that? So even if you track it hourly, okay, then you see, okay, there is some kind of decline or not, nothing is changing. But then okay, what do we do with the data? Then you need to understand, okay, the next step is, I got the data, I got perfect data right now. The next step is what?
I mean, what I think is interesting from your question, I don't think any of these tools, and with BuzzView we also don't do that, but I just got a thought. I don't think any of these tools are doing that, because realistically, every time you enter something in an LLM, the response will be different. There's edge cases where stuff is cached. Google, for example, is caching some of the AI overviews, but in ChatGPT, I believe that's not happening. That you get cached response. So even if you do 10 seconds later the same request, you would get a different answer. All of these tracking tools just give you, for one timestamp, one answer. Say like this timestamp, you got this answer. Maybe if one tool does that and says, hey, I'm basically querying the same query 10 times after another, and then using AI to basically give me a summary of all those 10 responses, because that would basically be the most representative answer that you could get. And this is the one where I think that it makes sense to optimize something on top of that. If you don't have this spot answer, but like this is the average, and now I'm taking actionable steps. Does any of these tools that do that?
No.
Because I think that would be quite interesting.
It's quite interesting.
Yeah.
But what about the costs then? If you,
I mean that obviously increases the cost significantly. But if I'm now
imagine if 500 prompts and you
but like let's take the comparison. Like it's goal based. Like tracking is a lot of like understanding. Like, do my measures have any effect? Are there any issues with my websites? But it doesn't help you a lot in optimizing to track daily. Instead of, for example, what you could do instead of tracking daily with the same costs, you could track weekly, but or summarize the weekly response every week. You would track it and then just summarize the responses to have actionable stuff to work with. I mean, that's two different goals. One is tracking, one is taking action.
I mean, most tools try to take action, but the recommended actions are just scraping the surface.
Yeah, it's true. It's difficult to do that. I mean, it's the same thing as we're just exploring everything, and you need to take this step back to understand the big picture first.
There was another question.
Yeah. So I'm very new to AEO, and I kind of feel a bit uneasy about the subjectivity of the tracking. So for example, with SEO, if I have to review performance, I can easily track that for keyword X, we rank at the second position, right? But in AEO, like even if we improve our visibility from like 40% to 60% over a period of an year, but if the AI still says that we are number 5 in the top 5 tools, what does it tell? Like I think above after a certain percentage of visibility, I would personally like want to pay more to be the number 1 in the top 5 than to just keep improving visibility. So is that possible to do that? Like track that?
Tracking this.
Like because I would say that the tool or the agency would tell me that okay, I'm improving my visibility, but does it tell me that
I mean, ChatGPT is trying to come up with a ad solution that might give you exactly that, but you, on the other side, on where are you at the 5th position? Are you for best CRM tools on the 5th position, but are you also on the 5th position if you just add in the ICP and then you can act on that? And maybe, if you just ask what are the best CRM solutions, you're on the 5th position. But if you then ask in more detail, you maybe not in the 5th position, but on the 2nd position, and then it's really, it gives you an idea also when it comes to the whole sentiment that we don't even talk about, because it would be another session maybe to just talk about sentiment. You can act on that and know why your competitor has better sentiment than you do, and then you could become on the 1st position.
Okay, so for that we will need to work on the sentiment than on the visibility. Is that correct? On improving the sentiment.
You need to work on all of those KPIs, not just the visibility. So sentiment is one thing, then that you get citations and that you get the links in the answers. These 3 main KPIs right now are maybe the important things. Focusing only on one.
Like of course, after like hitting a certain percentage of,
let's say you have 60% of visibility, but the AI is saying, I don't know, this agency Cosmetic is shitty, but you get mentioned, right? You get mentioned. Then you need to work on the mention that the sentiment is getting positive. That's how would you do that? It's almost the same like we did in SEO. Like you need to understand where this information is coming from. Who's saying that you're shitty or that you're good or not good enough, figuring it out, and then trying to influence this. So in most of the cases, like the off-page topic, like looking at who's talking about you, who's giving what kind of recommendations about you. I think there was a study out there from Ahrefs regarding these comparison pages, that they have a high visibility in LLMs. So they do comparison pages and then say, Cosmetic is best agency in the world when it comes to SEO, for example.
According to Cosmetic.
According to Cosmetic. And if there are 100 pages out there and 90% of them are saying this, then AI is starting to believe it. And what Ahrefs did, they did a study about what kind of articles rank well or get the most citation or visibility. They figured out it's almost all the time it's comparison pages where comparisons did, and LLMs somehow rely on these kind of contents instead of a single page talking about one brand and doing a recommendation. So right now this is the thing people are saying is working, but this might change in a few weeks or months, so you don't know. You need to be just like an SEO. You need to be.
But it's also about what information do you have? Does it match the more or less answer that the AI gives, or is it completely different? And does your page have something, information to it that enriches it? So is there an information gain? And that's also something that you didn't mention. And if you just add that all in, then you can act on it. But before the acting on it, you know where to start acting on, and that's why you need that tracking.
Also,
Yeah.
also, it's highly important. The PR department's getting more involved. The brand department's getting more involved.
Social media.
Social media gets it's part of brand and PR already, and it's about the noise out there and the noise you're creating on your page itself and the technology you're delivering. So, for example, we have some clients they build their pages with highly relying on JavaScript. This is an issue for the most of the LLMs right now, maybe in future not. But they have issues. They need to start doing server-side rendering and other topics. They need to change the technology to deliver their content to the LLMs because right now they are not able to handle that. So you have a lot of on-page topics, but in the same way you have a lot of off-page topics. In the last years, I would say, from the SEO perspective, off-page was like not that important maybe as on-page it was. But with the LLMs, it's getting more. With off-page is getting more importance than on-page maybe right now because it's not about what you're trying to tell the LLM with your page. It's more about what others are talking about you and what kind of sentiment and how do they recommend you. Are you important and authority or not? Because I think it was Raul a few weeks ago. He came up with you did a weird search in LLMs regarding. I think it was a financial topic, right? And then you came up with pages from the UK with really shitty pages.
I mean, that's again another topic is the query funnel stuff, like where you don't see that, but like the LLM is not just searching for one thing. Like in you let's assume that you would in a logged in state search for something like what's the best CRM for me. And they would, for example, then search for something like best CRM in Germany, best CRM for small agency, best CRM for small business, best CRM for integration or something like that. And you don't see that stuff, and especially ChatGPT is formulating a lot of English queries in the background. So it could search for something like best CRM for small businesses in Germany in English.
Mm.
And obviously, that's an extreme long-tail query where like you don't have any proper content sometimes. So what's happening is that spammy long-tail English content is starting. I think it was American Express. It was best credit cards for small businesses in Germany.
That was
there was some kind of it seemed like even made for AI spammy page that was ranking and being cited for that. So yeah, I mean that's still wide web stuff that would have never gotten any relevant traffic in SEO because nobody would search in English best like all this long tail query. That wouldn't make even sense to create that kind of query or page usually.
Any other comments or ideas or experiences you have? Enjoy your breakfast.
Say one thing.
Sure.
We recorded the session, and I think if it's okay to share the presentation, Kevin, we tend to send out an email after with a recap and links to everything. So if anyone wants to be on that list, just tell one of us, and we can add it.
Do you have the